Hello, everybody. Welcome to this is Peter Falk introducing you to the new Mega64 Movie Club.
Yes,
What'd you guys
and
think?
this is Wallace Shaw, and today we are going to be watching a movie that Rocco has never seen before. Inconceivable!
Wait.
That's right, The Princess Bride. Sean,
Okay.
who are you?
No, come on. Sean had an opportunity to do Carrie Yules.
Eels?
Yeah, all he had to do was welcome to the Mega64 Movie Club.
This is Movie Club, and today we are talking about the classic fantasy film from the 80s, The Princess Bride. I didn't see this movie until I was an adult. Rocco, was this the first time you had ever seen this movie?
I did technically kind of see it once in high school. I don't want to get too carried away.
Okay.
Sure, but kind of saw it, or should I?
No, don't get carried away. Not yet. Save it.
Okay.
This movie is Sean's pick. This week is Sean's pick. Sean chose The Princess Bride. Do you want to talk about why you chose The Princess Bride, Sean?
I think I kind of mentioned it maybe in the last movie club, but this was a movie that I think I've seen this movie more than any other movie in my entire life. I think I've seen this one the most. And I was just talking about it, assuming that most people have seen this movie. And I would say half the people I talked to had never seen it. So I was very surprised by that.
See, I thought I was the only one. Honestly, I legitimately did.
Yeah. So you were not. I think it's actually, you're halfway there, Rocco. I mean, people are either you or they're me. So anyways, my thought was like this. I mean, I don't want to get my popcorn shakers out of the way right now. It's still early for that. But this is like a movie I love. So I want everyone else to see this and see I'm curious what Rocco has to say about it, honestly. I have no idea what he's going to think.
Well, before we get to our personal opinions about it, let's give the people out there a little rundown of this movie.
Yeah.
It's directed by Rob Reiner, is written by the arguably one of the best screenwriters of all time, William Goldman. And
what else did he write?
In the late 80s. What?
What else did he write? I'm trying to think.
He wrote Misery. He wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Okay.
He wrote Marathon Man. He wrote all these classic films. And
okay, yeah.
He's super well respected in the screenwriting community. And he wrote Princess Bride. He wrote the book Princess Bride, and then he adapted this movie off of his own book.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew Rob Reiner directed Misery, and I did not know he directed this movie, so that was kind of cool. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sean, do you have some stats?
I do have. Well, I have a quick side note about the writer. I was reading about the casting of this movie, and they only casted Robin Wright as Princess Buttercup like a couple weeks before they started filming. It was like they couldn't find the right girl, and then Robin Wright came to the place to audition, and they opened the door, and they said like the sun was like perfectly behind her. Look, she had a halo, and then that guy was Goodwin, right? Good.
William Goldman.
Goldman. He looked at her and said, "That's what I wrote." So there you go. We got her. Like
I didn't realize it was her either until I watched it this time. I was like, "Oh yeah, Robin Wright." It was like her first movie. They say introducing at the end.
Yeah.
so anyway, that's cool.
Anyways, I have some more stats that we can get into maybe a little bit later, but I thought that was interesting.
Introducing Robin Wright, but people are probably thinking like, well, who the hell is Robin Wright? But she was in Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah.
She was in the latest. She was like Deanna's like mentor in Wonder Woman.
Her mom. I think it was her mom.
Oh yeah, straight up her mom.
Yeah.
I'm looking at IMDb. It says she was the lieutenant in Blade Runner 2049, so she's still popping up.
Dude, she was a badass in that movie.
She was in House of Cards. She was like the main person in House of Cards besides.
Yeah. But most importantly, she was Jenny.
In Forrest Gump, that's
Jenny.
true.
What movie's that?
Oh, that's where she's from.
Jenny.
Yeah. Rocco, it's really inappropriate for you to be doing that impression in 2020. I don't know if you're familiar or aware of what you're doing.
I understand. Tom is infected with corona, and it's not right. I apologize.
Robin Wright's first film, and yeah, so without further ado, should we just get into the plot summary?
Yeah.
All right. Princess Bride, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's a great kids movie. It opens with a classic shot of, I believe it's RBI baseball on the original Nintendo system.
It is, yeah.
I only say that because when I was a kid, I had RBI baseball.
Oh.
And I like to think it's the same baseball game I had when I was a child.
See, I only had bases loaded, so I couldn't connect to the scene.
I love, when we're doing movie club, I'm always fascinated by the opening shot of a movie. And this one with the classic Nintendo video games, everything about this movie oozes nostalgia. Whether you've seen it or not, this is the like quintessential 80s kids film.
I also love it that it's like you don't know what you're going to get. It's the Princess Bride. Everything you see on the cover is this like fantasy thing. And it starts with like an NES game. It's like, what is happening? Like, how do we start with this?
Exactly. And it kind of touches on the story of back then, what was modern video games. And, this kid is homesick from school. He's playing video games. His grandpa comes over with a book to read to him, and he doesn't want to hear it. Grandpa, I don't want to hear a stupid book. With the great line, I hope this book doesn't have kissing in it, which we can all relate to.
Yeah.
All right, so the whole movie is just this grandfather reading this story to his son. I know a lot of you out there have seen this movie. A few of you haven't. We're just going to bust through the basic plot points of this fairy tale real quick, and then we'll just dissect this film. So the movie starts on a farm, and there's a girl who lives on the farm, and she has a farm boy servant named Wesley, but she doesn't call him Wesley. She only calls him farm boy. She's always bossing him around, and no matter what she says, he always responds with the phrase, "as you wish." And the story goes that this is his way of saying, "I love you." Every time he says, "as you wish," he's secretly saying, "I love you." They fall in love, but they can't get married because they don't have any money. So Wesley goes off to make his fortune, and is killed by pirates. This happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie, right?
Right.
Buttercup, the name of the farm girl, she's devastated, she's heartbroken, and 5 years later, the prince of the land selects her to be his bride because of her beauty. So she is now about to become, I guess she is a princess at this point, but she's about to become the queen of this kingdom. And about a week before her wedding, she's abducted by 3 thieves or kidnappers. They claim to be circus performers in search of a town, but they abduct this princess, knowing who she is, and their plan is to ransom her or start a war.
Yeah, they want to start a war with like another like
a neighboring kingdom.
Yeah.
So these 3 guys are Wallace Shaw, the guy who I was impersonating at the beginning of this podcast. He has the famous line, "Inconceivable." Manny, how do you pronounce it? Patinkin, who plays, honestly, one of the best characters in cinema history, Inigo Montoya. Mm-hmm. And then Andre the Giant as, what's his character's name? Fezzik. Yeah. So do you guys want to talk about this opening part of the movie up to this kidnapping?
Not really. I mean, I love. Basically, this movie to me was like, I was so into the Wonder Years, and this was just like a movie version of the Wonder Years. Like, as crazy as that is, with Fred Savage being read to, it's like, this could just be an episode of this.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mention the kid in the beginning of the movie is Fred Savage from Wonder Years fame.
Which I think is why I immediately loved it so much when I was little, and like, because I was so obsessed with that show.
Yeah.
And they never say the kid's name at any point. So it's Kevin Arnold as far as I'm concerned. So.
It might as well be Kevin Arnold.
Yeah.
And Columbo. They don't name him either.
Yeah, it's like the greatest, television crossover of all time. And then Andre the Giant from WWE. So these guys have the princess. They think they're sailing her away. Nobody knows they have the princess. They've gotten away with it, except there's a boat following them. This, of course, I mean, it's so obvious from the moment.
Right.
From the moment it's Carrie Yules. It's the farm boy. Whatever the story said about he was dead by pirates, it has to be him. But it's, some guy in a mask, though a shitty mask. Very obviously Carrie Yules.
Him.
So he's following this boat, and the first half of this movie is Carrie Yules dispatching these 3 thieves one by one. This is honestly like the most memorable part of the movie to me. I always remember these scenes, and then I'm always like, what happens after that? Something about a wedding, something about a pit of despair.
Right.
So he has a badass sword fight. First, he takes on Inigo Montoya in one of the greatest sword fights of all time. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a very famous sword fight in modern history. We don't have to go into it, but you can read all about it. There's tons of stories about how they choreographed this sword fight and had these world famous fencers come, and everybody loves it. You find out about Inigo Montoya, and he wants to kill the man who killed his father. Next, Carrie Yules, Wesley takes on Andre the Giant in a fist fight, and he chokes him out, which is, whatever. It's a fun scene, but we're moving along to the final scene here, where he takes on Wallace Shaw in a battle of wits. The classic, I'll put poison in one cup, and you choose which cup you want to drink from, and the winner is the last man left alive. I think this is arguably the most famous scene in the whole movie.
It could be. I mean, everyone talks about this scene a lot. I will say they do a great job of. There's 3 guys that they're with, and you love 2 of them and you hate one of them, and they do a really good job of like getting you to love the 2 likable ones, and then like hate Wallace Shaw. I think that's like really well done.
I just want to say too, I guess I'll stop here to say it really never occurred to me how I knew this movie was quoted a lot, but it never occurred to me truly how much of it. Like every person I knew in high school had some quote in their like email signature or in their yearbook. They were all from this movie, and I never realized it until I watched it this time. With the stuff from that scene, all of life it's a terrible impression. All of life is pain. Anyone trying to tell you different is trying to sell you something or whatever. Oh my God, every fucking quote from this movie was repeated somewhere by someone I knew. But I also don't, so I guess in some form that's annoying, but I don't hold that against the movie. I never do, because I feel like it's not a movie's fault for being infectious. It's right. You know what I mean? I'll blame the audience, but I won't.
Yeah.
So
if you look at this scene, this is the final trial. Princess Buttercup is sitting right there. Carrie Yules versus Wallace Shaw. They put poison in one cup. They're trying to figure out which cup has poison in it. Wallace Shaw is actually sweating in this scene, which is pretty good as an actor if you can make yourself sweat. Talk about control of your body. Supposedly, Wallace Shaw was the second choice to play this part, and originally it was supposed to go to
Tom Cruise.
Danny DeVito.
Oh, whoa. That makes sense. I mean, I could see the thought there. I get that.
Yeah. Danny, you remember this character says something along the lines of, never engage a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Yeah.
Wallace Shaw is not Sicilian, so Danny DeVito is. I think so. They wanted to cast Danny DeVito. So supposedly Wallace Shaw always thought he was like wrong for the part and thought he sucked. And apparently he's sweating in that scene because he just thinks he's doing awful, which is hilarious because I feel like this is probably his most famous movie that he's remembered most.
Whatever movies is he in? I don't even know.
He is. He's the male teacher in Clueless.
Oh, okay.
Off the top of my head, but I don't know what else. But he's in all kinds of stuff.
Toy Story.
What?
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. I did know that. He's Rex in Toy Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wesley defeats Vincini by Vincini doesn't choose the wrong cup. We all know Wesley has built up a tolerance to poison after many years. Both cups were poisoned. And then, so what this movie is really about is Princess Buttercup is going to get married, right? She's going to marry a prince, but she's really in love with Wesley. At this point, the prince is tracking them. He's right on the heels. Wesley and Buttercup run into the swamp, the fire swamp, where there's death and destruction and a great adventure, you know. When they come out of the swamp, the prince is there. What's the Prince Humperdinck?
Humperdinck, yeah.
Who's a total asshole. And he basically takes Princess Buttercup back and says, "Thank you, Wesley. We're going to give you a big prize." And then tells his man, like, take him out and kill him. Mm-hmm. They take Wesley into what is known as the Pit of Despair. They throw him into a torture chamber. And I'm really just racing through the beats here because I want to just talk about the movie. But if you guys want to cut in at any point, feel free. Let's see where we left off here. I have to take notes because at this point, this is where the movie doesn't fall apart. It's still a great movie, but the first three thieves is like the most memorable part of the movie. Yeah, here,
sure. I will say the part when he goes into the Pit of Despair and that super albino man, I think it's called a albino guy in the credit.
Yeah, yes.
But when he talks, it's the pit of despair, and then like he clears his throat and he talks normal. Always killed me as a kid.
Yeah, that was a great gag.
I thought that was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of this movie is a comedy, which is funny because it's, you know, a lot of the movies we've been reviewing on Movie Club could be classified as dramedy, and this one is not a dramedy. It's like a comedy with dramatic elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost straight comedy. In fact, at this point of the movie, after she's rescued by Prince Humperdinck, we cut to a scene of their marriage, and she's introduced, "You're queen of the people," and everybody worships her except for one homeless lady who just keeps shouting "boo" at her. "Boo! You're right!" Just insults her, and it's like a Monty Python scene. It's so silly. That happens to be a nightmare, and Princess Buttercup awakens from this nightmare, realizing, I really love Wesley. I really want to marry Wesley. And she tells Humperdinck, I don't want to marry you. I want to marry Wesley. And Humperdinck tells her, that's great, but Wesley left. So you know what? Why don't you marry me? Or let's just move forward with our wedding, and you can send a letter to Wesley, and if he wants to marry you, he can. What she doesn't know is Wesley is in the pit of despair, being tortured to death.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the end of the movie here, folks. Yeah. Stick with me.
Yeah. I always, as a kid, back to the pit of despair, was so terrified of the idea that they sucked a year away from his life. Like, I didn't know what that did. The contraption looked cool, but that was like, what the fuck? It sucked a year out of his life. That's so scary. Yeah, and I will say that Christopher Geist plays the six-finger man who Inigo Montoya is spending his whole life trying to find to kill him. And I think Christopher Geist, like, this could be like, I mean,
is it Geist or Guest?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was Guest.
Oh, yeah. Guest? Okay. Well, either way. You know, does his own thing of like, you know, Best in Show or Waiting for Guffman. He has like his whole, like, he's a director. He does a ton of shit, but like this role could be, I think, his best, maybe. I don't know. I love him as this.
So it's funny you mentioned the machine in the pit of despair. Yeah, they keep talking about, we're going to hook you up to the machine. The machine. This is a fantasy movie. The machine could be anything. And it's a giant water pump suction machine. Yeah, and it sucks you so hard, it sucks the life out of you. It actually is kind of like uncomfortable to watch because it's very like lobotomy or electrotherapy. They've got it on his temples and it's like taped to his face and he like screams and writhes, you know?
Yeah. Which is scary because he's so cool and calm through everything else you've seen him in. Like every trial with everybody else, he's so like, I got it, no big deal. And then at the end when it's Christopher Geist says, like, I just sucked you over your life, whatever, you're never getting out of here. And he makes this like whimpering sound like, oh. It's like, that sucks. Like, it's like, oh, fuck, he's scared.
The machine, the suction cups are actually taped to the actor's head because the suction cups kept falling off. So that wasn't intended. Originally, it was just going to be like suction cups all over him, and they couldn't get it to work. Like, every time he moved, it would just be like, Deh. So the production designer was literally like, all right, hold on, masking tape. And they just like, so that's why he's like all mummified in it.
Wow.
Like, and that's filmmaking for you. It's just solving problems on the fly. Yeah. And then suddenly your movie is like way darker than you intended because the goddamn suction cups wouldn't stay on the fucking head. So in preparation for the wedding, the prince orders the local... Let's pause here. Prince Humperdinck is a bad guy. He doesn't want to marry Buttercup. In the second act, you find out he plans to murder Buttercup on his wedding night and frame that neighboring kingdom and go to war with them. And as part of this whole plot, he starts letting people know, like, oh, there's a plot to murder my wife. I want everybody in the thieves' woods to be cleared out. And again, this is a funny movie, and the guy who's ordered to clear out the thieves has this great line where he's like, okay, I don't think the thieves are going to like that. You know, he's like real upset about it. But as he's clearing out the thieves' woods, we are reintroduced to Andre the Giant, Inigo Montoya, all those thieves characters. Wesley's essentially tortured to death, and he screams so loud the whole kingdom can hear it. These thieves hear it. They find his dead body, and they take him to be resurrected by a local witch, a shaman, a guy named Miracle Max, played by Billy Crystal. And And honestly, a scene that I hate. Am I the only one that I don't really like Billy Crystal in most movies?
Huh.
Is that just me?
No, I like Billy
Yeah,
Crystal.
I like him. I mean, I never had any problem with him.
I
thought
like when Harry Met Sally, and it's been a while since I've seen City Slickers, but I feel like Billy Crystal is always doing a very sticky shtick. He's
Sure.
always like really hamming it up.
I mean,
and
he's always Billy Crystal. He never plays a character. He's always just him.
I disagree. He's always a character. He's never just.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, sure, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's always the same character. Is what I'm saying.
So Billy Crystal plays this, almost like he's a doctor. He's almost, he's classic New York, just Jewish character. I don't know how else to say it. That's this character, this witch doctor character. I'm reading through the notes here, and there's so many notes about this cameo that Billy Crystal has. Because really, he's in this movie for one scene. He's not a star of this movie. He was probably on set for like one day. And there's countless stories about how Rob Reiner had to leave the room because he was laughing so hard, and they couldn't get any work done because they were just laughing so much at everything Billy Crystal said. And I'm watching this thing, it's just thinking like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
whatever you were experiencing on that day has been lost in the 30 years that have passed.
No, I agree, and it's funny because I read the same notes, and I don't mind him in that movie. I think it's funny, but not like laugh out loud funny. Like, I like it. But yeah, reading those things is like, I don't. Why? Like,
that
I like
stuff reminds me of like the older generation in my family, and so I like, it's comforting, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a bit, but I'm not laughing at it.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I mean, I think the scene is good. I wasn't busting up. I don't think it's bad though. I think it's fine.
No, it's not bad. But I can't imagine having to leave the room because I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, I do like the scene. So Wesley is resurrected, and then we come to the final act where basically the thieves and Wesley go to save the day. They rescue Princess Buttercup on her wedding night. They defeat the evil prince. Inigo Montoya gets revenge on Christopher Guest, and everything wraps up nicely. And they all live happily ever after.
And then the grandpa is done with the book, and Fred Savage asks them to read it again tomorrow. And the grandpa says, "As you wish." What a nice little bow on that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the movie. I personally highly recommend seeing this movie if you haven't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you guys have to say about it, but like that, this is, I think it's in my top 10 of all time, maybe even as high as top 5. Like, I love this movie. And it could be, but that's the thing, is it could be one of those things where it's like a childhood like nostalgia thing, or it's the movie is actually great. I'm not sure which one it is, to be real with you, but I do love it.
Having seen it the first time, I'm gonna say it's a childhood nostalgia thing. It felt
what?
It felt.
You didn't like this movie?
Not really. It felt like I just felt like it was a kids movie. It was fine, but I didn't really get anything out of it. My whole life, I felt like I was kind of like gaslit around this movie, because I remember in high school when we played it in one of our classes, they said we're gonna play Princess Bride, and everyone around was like, "Oh shit, yeah, Princess Bride," and I had never heard of it. I was like, "What is everyone talking about? Like, what?"
Yeah. Oh, I was in the same boat. I had never seen this movie as a kid either.
Yeah, and then it was like, "Oh yeah," and then it started playing, and people were like quoting it back to the screen. I was just like, "Is this a fucking prank? Like, what is happening? I've never even heard of this."
I felt that way about a lot of movies throughout my childhood, especially at school. Yeah.
But then it's funny because I thought it had come out only a few years before I saw it then. I mean, and again, I technically saw it then, but it was not an ideal situation, so I don't really count that. But so I thought it was out like maybe like early 90s, mid 90s, and only watching it this time did I realize I did not know it was a 1987 movie. I had no clue. I thought this was like, I know it makes no sense. I thought this was after Wonder Years, but that wouldn't make sense because Fred Savage would be like a college student. But anyway, watching it now, I still feel gaslit because I don't understand what's that great about it. Like, it's a good kids movie, but Derek, you're slinging out greatest sword fight of all time, greatest character of all time. Last episode of this, you said this might be my favorite movie of all time. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't.
I didn't say this might be my favorite movie of all time.
I said that.
Yeah, Sean said that. And I said this is Inigo Montoya is one of the greatest characters of all time. It is one of the greatest sword fights of all time. It is. I mean,
I just don't.
That's not my opinion. Those are widely regarded things, Rocco.
I just don't see it, and I don't understand it. But I think it's a good kids movie. But it struck me as like a Disney Channel movie. Like, it's fine. It's not bad.
Oh my god! Fuck off. I was gonna listen to your review until the Disney Channel thing. Fuck you for even saying that.
But that's what I mean. I walked in the other
club. We're not supposed to fight about the movie.
I walked
Disney Channel movie. Fuck you.
But that's what it. That's honestly what it. I mean, I didn't think it was bad, but I walked in yesterday and we were gonna record this. We didn't, but. Kevin asked me. He was like, "You guys are doing Princess Bride?" Yeah. He's like, "I just rewatched that, and I don't. It's like, it's a good kids movie, but it didn't really like hold up. I don't know.
Sean, I just want to point out that it's not lost on me how hard it must be to talk about how this is one of your favorite movies, and then have somebody just insult you how bad the movie is and childish.
To be fair, Rocco does this to me all the time.
I didn't say it was bad. I just.
No, but you definitely insulted it, which is fine. Like, it's your opinion. That's the whole point of this, is to watch movies, whatever. But like, Derek, I always am hesitant to tell Rocco to watch things because he always comes back at me like I'm a fucking moron for liking something.
I didn't
no, for sure. No, you definitely not. But like, what I'm saying is like, you do run the risk of Rocco hating the thing that you love, and you never know what he likes and what he doesn't like.
I gave Sean Who Framed Roger Rabbit a few years ago, and he brought it back in, and that movie changed my life. Yeah. And when Sean brought it back, he said, "I think I would have been affected by that if I saw it when I was a kid, but I didn't." And that's
and I didn't care for that movie, really. No, I get it. That's totally fair. Even me seeing Terminator 2, I was like,
I honestly was disappointed when you said Terminator 2 was a child's film because I was like, no, it's not. I saw it in theaters like a month ago.
Yeah,
sure. And I totally get that. I get that idea. But I do think you're wrong. That's what I think. I think this is one of the best movies.
You know what? Now you get my opinion. I saw this movie for the first time as like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old. Maybe I was at that cusp or I was an adult, but I still had, whimsical, childish sensibilities because I loved the movie then on my first viewing. I still objectively, I love this movie. I think this movie is great in a filmmaking capacity. I think when you tell a story, you can't tell a tighter story than The Princess Bride. I think it's the perfect story, honestly. Everything dovetails nicely. It's wholesome. It's got adventure. It's got love. It's got magic. And I think Princess Bride is objectively great. I don't think you need to be a child to find those things enjoyable. Sword fights and matching wits and this guy's fighting Andre the Giant and it's stupid. And obviously the rocks are made out of foam and it's not the most believable movie. What is this movie the most of, though, I wonder? It is the most something movie, and it's something good. You know what I mean? It's not the most badass movie ever.
No.
It's not the funniest movie ever.
With my favorite movies, and Rocco, I'm not really mad, just for the record. But
why
with
is
my
just
favorite
a picture of Sean the whole time, though? Is the camera not switching here? Or is that, sorry.
No,
maybe I'm just on my call.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, we're
continue, guys.
But my favorite movies of all time, I don't necessarily think are the best made. Like, my favorite movie ever is Back to the Future, which there are better movies in the world, but that is my favorite because I feel great watching it.
Oh, I'm the same way.
Yeah. I just love every second of it. I think it's a fun adventure, and I don't expect to be moved, really. I just want to have like a fun time in this little fantasy world, and then like I love all the characters.
I was watching this last night, and I was legitimately like excited for Rocco's review because I thought you would love it. I really did. And I don't care, honestly, because I didn't pick this movie. This isn't one of my favorite movies, but I'm surprised that you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Specifically, I thought you would like the Inigo Montoya character, his like lifelong dedication to avenge his father, his classic line, which is an iconic line of dialogue.
Oh, I know. I remember.
Manny Patinkin says that line gets quoted to him 2 or 3 times a day, every day, since 1987.
Oh my
and he
God.
loves it. He's really happy about it. None of that hit with you?
No, I mean, again, it was all. I mean, everything in this is really simple and it works. But like I said, it's. I don't know. It's a kids movie. It hits it has all the beats it needs to, but it didn't really like toy with anything in an unexpected way, you know. And even the device of having the grandpa reading to the kid, I think was cool. Like when I heard that it had that, or when I saw that it had that when I was younger, that was cool. Like that, I always like that kind of thing when you add a little more than it needs, you know, like Titanic having the old woman describing it versus just showing it. You know what I mean? I always like having that extra layer. But again, all of those things are there and they're done well, but it doesn't really play with anything in an unpredictable way. So, you know, I'm seeing this for the first time in my 30s, you know, so it doesn't do anything for me, but if I saw it maybe as a kid, but yeah.
Maybe. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about.
Well, I have a couple notes that I thought would be fun, but maybe the fun's been sucked out of this. But we'll see what we can do.
I'm still having fun. Don't worry.
Thank you. I think that it's interesting. So Andre the Giant was their first. That's who they wanted to play Fezzik, but they couldn't get him because he was too busy with the WWF at the time. So then they were thinking maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger before he really acted in anything.
Oh,
and then it took them 7 years to get this movie finally made. And by the time that happened, Arnold Schwarzenegger was like the biggest star, and they couldn't afford him anymore. So then they were able to get who they really wanted was Andre the Giant originally. So I thought that was interesting that Arnold was potentially. They even like auditioned like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be Fezzik.
Yeah, I can't picture anybody else but Andre the Giant in that role. I mean, Arnold I'm sure would have been great, but if you're talking just Big Brute, like who could be better?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's yeah.
Yeah. This movie is included on the list of 1001 movies to see before you die. And this is, you know, Rob Reiner classic, so I recommend people check it out. Definitely check this out.
I say check it out. There really was in real life a Dread Pirate Roberts. That's real, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if he did things the same way that the other one did, but yeah, they never caught him. So Dread Pirate Roberts was real.
The
budget for this movie was it cost $16 million to make. It only made $30 million. In theaters, so it did okay, but nothing crazy. But then once it got onto home video, VHS back in the day, is when it like got its cult following, and now has become like, I mean, it's made so much fucking money now just through people buying it on DVD and Blu-ray and whatever. So
yeah, $30 million back in 1987 is different than $30 million now.
Totally
doubled its money. It's not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, it still is weird to me. Well, maybe because of the reason you mentioned, though, that I didn't, for at least 12 years that it was out, I never had heard about it. Again, it was like probably like 99, 2000 that was played in a class that I was in.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I've talked to a lot of people who are the same way.
Yeah, I don't. Again, maybe because it was a cult thing, you know, and the internet kind of wasn't what it was, and it hadn't maybe got in front of eyes like that. I don't know. That I thought that was really weird. And again, it was a real shock to me that it came out in 87. I didn't know that. I really thought, I don't know why. I thought it was in like early 90s, mid 90s or something. And, you know, there's a dead spot for me in culture in like the mid 90s. I don't know what was going on, but there were a few years in my life where I didn't watch TV or listen to anything. I wasn't doing anything but like school.
Were you like 7 years old?
Yeah, and I was like going to school and playing video games, and I used the internet, but only for the things I was interested in. I wasn't paying attention to anything going on in the world at all. And so I thought, well, it's got to be from that time because I missed out on so much. But no, it was like a decade before that. So I don't know how that happened. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm always surprised even now. Really intriguing movies are released and they're already out. People have seen them. I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, oh yeah, that came out in 2016. Movies are always coming out. Always. It's like a fucking flood of films, and great ones, bad ones, and everything in between. I also had never heard of Princess Bride. I don't know when I first heard of this movie, but it was like you, at least 12 years after it was made.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
I mean, again, it wasn't a huge hit. Maybe it's just that my dad had a VHS copy of it, and I just watched that thing like every single day. What I would do when I was home from school is, if I was sick, I would watch The Wonder Years on TV, and then I watched Princess Bride, and then The Twilight Zone. That was like what I did every single time I was sick. So,
yeah, for me, it was just Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was the only time I ever watched it.
Well, that works too.
It was on in reruns.
Well, is that it for today then, everybody?
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. Those of you who have not seen it, you probably have Disney Plus. I would say check it out and see which side of the table you're on, Rocco or Sean.
Again, I really wasn't trying to come in and dump on this. I'm just watching this movie for the first time in my 30s. A movie that has, is 30 years old at this point on its own. And so I'm just giving my honest reactions from that. But I once again bring up, Kevin said the same thing when I walked in, so I know I'm not alone.
Well, so you both of you have bad taste then. Congratulations, you're made for each other. Next week we're going to, I'm sorry, what, Sean?
I could be wrong, but I feel like this. I'm just guessing that if people like this movie, they love this movie. There's people who like me. Most people I think who see it are like me. So you may get a lot of hate for this, Rocco. You could get some shit.
Oh, he's definitely going to get a fuck ton of hate, and he doesn't even realize it.
He thinks that he didn't like the movie. Now he's about to fucking hate this movie.
Well, I do want to say though that I do understand. The thing I will say I understand is there is a sweetheartedness behind this movie. In a sea of movies that might have like a dark side to them, or kind of a negative tone here, or something controversial or provocative. This movie I can see being very comfort food. You know what I mean? To somebody. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I think it's rare to have a movie as pure as this one. I called it a Disney Channel movie, but I mean that it's simple, but sometimes you want that chicken soup movie. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I have those for myself, For me, that's like Return of the Jedi. I don't expect someone to, for the first time, watch Return of the Jedi right now and be like, "Oh wow, I feel so good." I get it, but I could see that providing that. I see that side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we should treasure those movies. There's not a lot like that.
Well, maybe I'm sure there's a big portion of the population out there that probably agrees with Rocco.
I bet you're right.
Happy that you have that opinion.
Yeah. Derek, what's next?
I don't know. Where do we even go from here?
I was going to say,
I think we should watch The Princess Bride again. I think we should. I'm going to give it some popcorn shakes. I'm going to say 4 and... I'm going to say 4 out of 5 popcorn shakes for The Princess Bride.
Yeah, it's a 5. Obviously, a 5 out of 5 for me. A lot of shakes for this one.
Rocco, speak freely, Rocco.
It's fine. I mean, again, I don't think this is bad. It's just it's what it is, and that's it, and that's fine. I'll say 2.5 because that's right in the middle. So that's where I sit.
Okay.
When next we meet, ladies and gentlemen, we will be discussing the gothic noir classic, Night of the Hunter. It is going to be the oldest film we've watched so far on Movie Club. This is a Derek pick.
Yeah.
I'm forcing these guys to watch it.
Isn't it 1955? Is that what it was?
1955, yeah.
Okay. Damn.
1955. So this movie is 65 years old this year.
Wow. And
Check
it's
it
on
out.
Amazon Prime. So
Yeah, it's on
Amazon
Amazon Prime, right, for
available
free.
to watch. I highly recommend it. We were going to be discussing it on the next episode. It's not a children's film, so maybe that'll work in its favor. Who
That's
knows?
true. Who knows?
Just tune in to find out.
Yeah. Sort of a children's film, but one that children don't need to watch.
Yeah.
Well, don't spoil it.
Yeah.
Tune in next time, guys. This has been Movie Club, and yeah, watch these films. Join us. Or don't. Who cares?
Yeah.
See you in a week.
I care. I'm sensitive.
Oh, Rocco cares.